What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, Tyler Lavalette, two guys talk sports. Let's rock and roll. Starting with the Chicago Cubs. Ladies and gentlemen, I just gotta say this. It is a wonderful night, and it has been a wonderful day today to be a Cubs fan. And if you're wondering why, well, today, with an 8-4 victory over the Pirates, these Chicago Cubs will be playing baseball in the month of October. That's right, the Cubs have punched their postseason ticket, and it feels very, very good as a Cubs fan. The thing is, the Cubs, they had not been to the postseason since the COVID year of 2020, a year everybody would just like to forget about because a whole bunch of crap and that stuff. But I tell you what. First of all, I got to give my man Tyler Lavalette kudos on a whole lot of it. He saw more in this Cubs team than I first saw in the beginning of the season. I actually was just not sure about this Cubs team. I thought they got good pieces in place, but they're still young, and I think they need some time to grow before they're ready to make it back to the postseason. And, oh, was I wrong? And you know what? I'm happy to be wrong. So, Tyler, kudos to you. You clearly knew. And that's the thing. Tyler Lavalette is a baseball knower. Where I, Jake Waxman, not a baseball knower at all. I'm just more of a Cubs knower, if anything. But to tell you the truth, this Cubs team, you know what? They started out the year really strong in the hardest part of their schedule, which was early in the year. They took care of business, won a whole lot of games. And there was a time during the summer, like around July and early August, where things were looking really tumultuous for the Cubs. They had lost a lot of games. The offense was going down the tubes, and bullpen was struggling a lot. But you know what? Everybody goes through a cold streak in the MLB, and as Tyler mentioned, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the Chicago Cubs, props to them. They got things figured out in August. They turned things around. Offense got things turned around. Guys like Pete Crow Armstrong, who I have a lot of praise for, started returning to their form where they were just hitting home runs and deep balls left and right. But honestly, this Cubs team, they'd been through it all this season, ups and downs. But when it mattered most, hey, they got things turned around at the right time and settled down, and with 7 games left to go, it's official. They will have an October. Now, will it be an October to remember? We'll find out. But for right now, the first order of business for the Chicago Cubs is for the final 7 games. Build momentum for the playoffs. You're in the playoffs now. Anything goes. Let's see how hot you can be going into the playoffs. And one other thing I'd like to mention. Massive kudos to Craig Counsell in the first year with this Cubs team, and he's taken them to the postseason. So far, he's looking like a good hire for the Chicago Cubs and doing a very good job. So we'll see how things go come the postseason. It's a different animal, but this Cubs team, they had much more than I gave them credit for at the start of the season. They had plenty. They had more than what they needed to make it to the postseason. And crazy thing something Tyler Lavalette told me is while the Cubs have clinched their spot in the playoffs, we're still waiting for the Tigers, who have had a great season as well, to clinch their spot in the AL postseason. They have 85 wins on the season, so they haven't clinched yet. But in fairness to the Tigers, nobody else in the American League has clinched a spot in the postseason, which to me is crazy. But the American League must be really, really deep heading into the postseason. And honestly, right now the Tigers fending off a charge from the Cleveland Guardians, who are just 5 games back. But the Tigers should be in the postseason. It won't take them too much longer. And I'd be shocked if they don't win the American League Central. They should. Being up 5 games with a couple games to go, they should be able to lock it down. And I have no doubt about it. The Tigers will be in. Just for right now, the Cubs are in the postseason, and I'm ecstatic. the city of Chicago needed good news because the Bears have just, oh my god, the Bears have been disappointing to start. The Blackhawks are probably going to go through another rebuilding year. And then you got the Bulls and the White Sox. We don't even talk about the White Sox. And then the Bulls, of course, it feels like they're just stuck in like the 90s or that mindset. But Chicago needed some good, sports-wise, Chicago needed some good news, and they've got it with the Cubs. Chicago's beloved Cubs will be playing baseball in October because they started the season strong, and when they hit bumps in the road, they found a way to recover, and they found a way to turn things around on both on offense and defense. And because of that, they will have an October. Now, question is, will they have enough from the bullpen and the offense? And as well as Craig Counsell mastermind a run to the World Series? We'll see. But for right now, happy for the Cubs. Ecstatic for some October baseball for the first time since 2020. The vibes in Chicago, for the time being, are pretty good. So, fly that W really high, and let's fly it really high during the postseason. Go Cubs, go! All right, and now on to my next subject, which, speaking of Chicago sports, so the Cubs are giving Chicago the best of news possible, knowing that they're in the World Series, and thanks a lot to the players that they added in the offseason and players like Pete Crow Armstrong and Ian Happ, who are pretty much swinging bats away. Now we got to talk about the Bears. Bad news, Bears. So, off to an 0-2 start. Problems galore. Defense cannot stop anyone. Caleb Williams, he has good moments, but we've got some concerns about him. And the offense, of course, offensive line has improved, but there's some questions there. Questions with the rest of the offense. And everybody is just really, really mad at Ryan Poles. Because, honestly, I don't think he's done the best of job with roster construction. But I'm not here to be a Debbie Downer and talk about the bad news Bears side of things. There is one positive thing going on with the Bears right now. And that would be one Chicago Bear has actually taken a leap forward in his second year. And in case you're wondering, I'm talking about Odunze. I've been impressed with him to start the season. Despite the struggles of the Bears, Odunze has taken leaps forward. And a lot of NFL experts out there were talking about a leap forward in his second year. And so far, that prediction is looking pretty good. 2 games into the season, he's got 3 touchdowns. I think more than all he had all of last year. He's become Williams' favorite target. When Williams has completed some really nice passes, a lot of them have gone to Odunze's way. I don't know the exact numbers, but Odunze has had no trouble so far finding the end zone this season and finding connections with Caleb Williams. He and Caleb, they got that chemistry. But Odunze, he has stepped up, and he's really helping this Bears offense score points, even when it's garbage time and all. Look, you gotta have some positives, even at what looks like it's going to be another down year for the Bears. No playoffs. I'm hoping they just improve throughout the season and win a lot of close games, even if they don't make the playoffs. Improvement. And, I like Ben Johnson, too. All right? Ben Johnson, I think, is another positive, and he, in large part, has helped unlock the potential of Odunze, who I think could be one of the league's best wide receivers. And Odunze, he's flashing that potential and that promise. It's good. It is really refreshing to see somebody for the Chicago Bears stepping up when the team is struggling. There's at least something to feel good about with the Bears, and that's Odunze. You know what they say? Rome wasn't built in a day, all right? And some NFL players, they don't pretty much hit the turf running right away. And that was the case with Odunze in his first year. But in his second year, Ben Johnson has helped unlock his potential a lot. And the 3 touchdowns on the season, it shows. And he's getting a lot more balls from Caleb Williams. Sorry. He's getting a lot more catches from Caleb Williams, all right? And that's good to see. The Bears are getting him more involved on offense, which I like to see. That's good for player developments. And hopefully, I think this Bears team, they'll be in a lot of these games. And you know what? If this Bears team can improve a lot, and I think a lot of it is going to be because of the progress of Rome Odunze. So, Bears fans, there's probably going to be no playoffs this year for the Chicago Bears, but you got something to look forward to. Keep an eye on Rome Odunze, because right now he is pretty much playing as hard as he can in what looks like a very terrible situation in Chicago. So, Rome Odunze, great job. Keep up the good work. Give us Bears fans something to smile about. Please. Keep on doing what you're doing, because it's been amazing. And once again, one final message, Caleb Williams, don't stop throwing the football Rome's way. He's going to help you a ton this season. And finally, we'll stick to football on this last subject, and we're going to talk about Joe Burrow. Here we go again. He's injured. And a lot of people... Okay, first of all, I want to say this. The injury, in case you're wondering, is what has been dubbed as turf toe. And a lot of people are like, what in the actual frick is turf toe? Like, what does that mean? Let me explain that to you. I want to give Fox News some credit real quick for this article, because they published what turf toe really means. So they were in a Fox News interview with a doctor of physical therapy, and Tom Christ, who is the doctor's name, he said the following: turf toe, it's a disruption or an injury with the tissues on the underside of the big toe. And that's really, really critical, because whenever we walk, run, throw, sling a baseball bat, whatever it is, the last point of contact with the foot and the ground is the big toe. So basically, to put in touch, when we plant our feet, it's important for us to be able to plant the whole foot, and the toe is pretty much the last point of contact. We have to be able to land on our toes in order to walk efficiently. Turf toe is a disruption to those tissues to where they are no longer restraining the toe from just extending all of the way upwards, and therefore they are no longer providing a firm base of push-offs. So right now, if you went and tried to run off that big toe, one, it would hurt too bad for him to do it. But let's say that pain wasn't the problem here. His toe would just continue to extend all the way into the rest of his foot, so we wouldn't have a solid base of anything to push on. So what this doctor basically is saying is, if Joe tries to play on the injury to this toe, the tissues that are already damaged in that toe, oh boy, it would get worse, to the point where the toe could just extend outwards. I don't even like the look of it. I don't want to even know the look of it. And to the point where Joe Burrow would make the pain worse. And he wouldn't be able to push off. And I don't even want to know how worse it could get if he tried to walk on turf toe. The point is, the tissues in the toe are important for a human being to be able to plant their foot for firm contact to the ground. And if that is damaged, then we got to be careful with how we're walking, or else we can make it a whole lot worse. We could, more than just dislocate our toe, So for lack of better words, what I'm trying to tell you is, it's just not an injury that a football player like Joe Burrow should play on, because it can get much, much worse. And quarterbacks in particular, with the way they throw the football, they have to be able to plant their feet. And if you got a toe injury, you're not going to be able to plant that foot set your feet to be able to throw that perfect spiral. Like, for example, Joe Burrow, he needs to be able to plant his feet to be able to throw the perfect football to Jamar Chase. So that's why he's going to be out for 3 months. There's a lot of ways we could take this, okay? On one hand, some people are saying, oh, Joe Burrow, he's made of glass, keeps getting hurt. And this is another major injury to Joe Burrow. I think his third in his NFL career. But on the other hand, you can also say, these injuries, and I watched the play that this turf toe happened on. And this injury, looking at this injury, this happened on a play in which the offensive line broke down on him again. The thing is, I've noticed this with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals, the management of the Cincinnati Bengals has failed to provide Joe Burrow with adequate protection from the offensive. Like, they have failed to get him offensive line that can hold the line, hold down the trenches, and protect Joe Burrow. In this day in the NFL, you got to be able to protect your quarterback, or he's going to get hurt. I mean, the Bears have had this problem too with quarterbacks, whether it was Trubisky or Justin Fields or... Now, Caleb has not gotten hurt yet, thank goodness, but I'm surprised that hasn't had injuries that haven't taken him out of football. And then quarterbacks for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals have had trouble in the past building offensive line. Case in point, your quarterback is going to get hurt at some point if you can't protect him. He's going to get hit hard enough. Whether it's a turf toe, an ACL tear, or even just an upper body injury. These things are going to happen if you keep letting him get hit. And the Bengals have just failed to give Joe Burrow they have failed to give him good offensive line protection. The linemen that they are getting in free agency just have not been able to protect him. And that falls on the Bengals management for not signing the best possible offensive lineman. And as a result of this, oh dear. I hate talking about this because this reminds me, oh goody. This reminds me of another quarterback. This whole situation reminds me of another quarterback who was on his way to NFL greatness and injuries derailed his season. For those of you who don't know, I am referring to Andrew Luck, the former quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. He was a guy that could have been a great NFL quarterback. He was on his way to being a Hall of Famer. He was carrying the Colts for the longest time. But much like what Joe Burrow is going through, Andrew Luck, he struggled with injuries, and a lot of those injuries happened because his offensive line could not protect him. And the Colts failed to provide him with pro-style NFL offensive linemen who could protect him at all costs, who could hold down the trenches. And as a result of that, Luck retired after just 7 seasons in the NFL because the love of the game, he had lost his love for the game. He'd been injured so much, and had the Colts gotten him better offensive linemen, Luck may still be playing today in today's NFL. He may have still been playing. And I fear that Joe Burrow is heading down that same path. Unless he's able to request a trade out of Cincinnati and is able to get out of Cincinnati any way possible, even via trade, or get released by Cincinnati for doing something wrong, which I wouldn't blame. The thing is, it's come to the point where Joe Burrow may need to get away from the Cincinnati Bengals because they've given him everything he needs except offensive line protection. And unless Cincinnati upgrades that offensive line, Joe Burrow is going to continue to get hurt. You know, you can say what you want about his injury history, but it is fair to say that the Bengals need to put more care into that offensive line. They need to put more money on that offensive line. They haven't done that. And now Joe Burrow's got another injury. And it's giving us bad vibes, bad memory. It's just making, football fans like myself think about Andrew Luck's time in Indianapolis. I don't want the same thing to happen to Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow, the numbers he puts up every year are just wow. The guy's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, but these injuries could take him out of the NFL. I mean, it could be to the point, unless either A, Cincinnati needs to do better, spending more money on the offensive line in the offseason next year, or Joe Burrow needs to find a way to get away from the Cincinnati Bengals. Request a trade as hard as you can. If they refuse to build an offensive line around him, then he needs to request a trade. Because he's going to, by the way, Joe Burrow is going to be out 3 months. Forgot to mention that. 3 months. That could be the rest of the season. And you know what? The Bengals may miss the playoffs again because Joe Burrow's hurt again. It feels like another Andrew Luck situation. Where either Cincinnati learns from the lessons from the Andrew Luck situation in Indianapolis and actually puts money into that offensive line. B, Joe Burrow requests a trade or tries to find a way to get out of Cincinnati. Or C, if the Bengals refuse to let him go or refuse to trade him or refuse to build an offensive line around him, Joe Burrow retires then. And we're much like Andrew Luck with the love of the game lost because of injury. And because the team around it, because the organization he put his heart into did not put around him what he needed. I really hope it doesn't come to this because Joe Burrow, phenomenal quarterback. He's a class act too. And I want to see this guy win a Super Bowl. I want to see, no matter who he plays for, I want to see Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is one of my favorite players in the NFL. I really like Joe Burrow. Probably my favorite quarterback in the game. I don't want to see him go out the same way Andrew Luck did. I want to see him play for as many seasons as he can. Hopefully win a Super Bowl, no matter who he's playing with. And retire with a Hall of Fame resume. But if things keep going the way that they're going right now, it looks like another Andrew Luck story. Another story in which we lose a great one to retirement much too soon. But the thing we also have to consider, the health of the player is all the important. Above all things else, we want the players to be healthy. So, I'm going to conclude by saying this. I hope Joe Burrow gets what he needs or he finds a way to play for an organization that actually will build an offensive line around him next season. Or, I don't know. It's just tough to think about. Really tough to think about. On to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 17th of September in the year 2025. Not 2025, sorry. September 17th, 1967. The New Orleans Saints played their first ever NFL game. By the way, they returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown in their opening game. It'll be the highlight of a loss to the Los Angeles Rams, 27-13. All right, sports fans, that's all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. I'll see you all in the studio with my man Tyler Lavalette, and we will tell you guys a lot about our experiences with the Detroit Rugby Club. Looking forward to talking about that, and we got videos up already to show you what we saw. But we'll be showing you some of those during our next Friday roundtable this upcoming Friday. For now, I will say goodbye. Thank you for watching this week's Waxon Wednesday. This is Jay Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports. Wishing you all a good week.